We can sit cross-legged, we can sit on the knees, we can sit with the legs out in front, just however feels comfortable. And then again, we're just going to take those few moments just to arrive. So again, just finding our comfortable asana. Again, that word asana just means sacred seat. So again, just finding our seat, however that may be. And again, from that internal perspective. So again, we just start to close the eyes, shift our awareness again a little bit more inwards. And then again, we can just slowly start to just bring our awareness to our posture. So again, do you want to kind of roll the shoulder blades back and down a little, lift up through the sternum, again back of the neck is long so the chin is slightly tucked in. Again, the lower back is in a neutral position, so we're not slouching, but we're also not lifting up too much and creating a little back bend. Again, that sergeant major chest. And then again, we can just slowly start to shift our awareness to the breath. So we just become aware of that inhalation and the exhalation as the breath just slowly starts to deepen, just with that awareness, that watching of the breath. And then again, we can just slowly start to come into that yogic breath, or the 3-part breath. So again, this is where we start to, again, breathe up into the diaphragm, up into the chest, up into the collarbones. So again, we're filling the whole of the lungs. And then again, we can breathe out of the diaphragm, out of the chest, and out of the collarbones. And again, we can breathe in for that count of 6. As we exhale, we just have a slightly longer exhalation. So again, we're just really emptying the lungs on the exhalation. Again, we can also use this exhalation just to breathe out any of those unwanted thoughts, worries, stresses, that mental chatter. In yogic terms, they call it the chitta vitris, the whirlings of the mind. Vitri means whirling. And the chitta is all that kind of chatter of the mind, whirlings of the mind. And then again, we're just going to come into that samavriti, or that equal count breath. So a very kind of meditative breath, I find. So again, breathing in for 6. And then again, breathing out for 6. Again, inhalation, exhalation in equal rhythms. Again, we start to add that little come back, that little holding or retention of the breath. So again, breathing in for 6, holding with full lungs for count of 3, breathing out for 6, holding with empty lungs for count of 3. And then again, finally come into that full Samavriti breath if you're comfortable with the retention of the breath. So again, we can breathe in for 6, hold for 6, breathe out for 6. Again, hold with empty lungs for a count of 6. Again, if we get agitated with the holding of the breath, we can stay with the 6 free count. Again, we can just let go of that breath. We can just take a few moments here, just again see how we feel. And all those pranayamas have got different effects on us. Again, just seeing kind of how we feel after practicing them. And then again, we can just slowly bring those hands together, gently rubbing the hands together, create a little bit of heat. We can bring the hands up to the eyes, again, just gently blinking into the warmth and darkness of the hands. Maybe bringing the fingertips onto the eyelids, gently massaging out the eyelids. And down the side to the jaw, to the chin. And then we're going to begin here with a couple of seated little shoulder and side stretches. So again, we're going to do those ones where we're just going to kind of relax the arms down at the sides. And then again, we can inhale, reaching those arms up. And we can again clasp the hands together and just kind of exhale, roll the shoulder blades back and down. We can inhale here, we're just going to exhale, drop those arms over towards one side, whichever side we go to. And we can just drop that right hand down onto, actually, whichever side you go to, drop your hand closest to the floor down and reach up and over with the opposite arm. And then again, we just relax the head here again a little bit. So we just kind of drop that kind of ear towards the shoulder, closest shoulder to the floor. And again, we can take a couple of breaths here. And then again, we can inhale, coming back to center. We can again clasp the hands together. And again, we can exhale, bring those arms over towards the opposite side. We can drop our left hand down on the hand that's closest to the floor. Reach up and over with the opposite arm. Again, relax that ear towards the shoulder. And again, take a couple of breaths. And then again, we can come back to center. And then again, we can bring our arms out to shoulder level as we inhale. And we're just going to exhale again, twist towards that kind of right knee. So we're just going to bring our left hand towards the right knee. And we're going to wrap that right arm around towards the left hip. We're going to press the hands into the body. We're going to take the gaze over the back shoulder. And then again, we can inhale, coming back to center. We can bring the arms back out shoulder level. We can again exhale, twist to the opposite side. So again, we can drop right hand to left hip and knee. Take that left hand around towards the right hip. Too many lefts and rights. Gaze over the back shoulder. And then again, we can come back to center. And then we're going to start to shift it a little bit more into our legs. So we're going to come into my favourite, that little deer pose. So again, we're just going to start by taking that kind of right leg behind and just kind of having our kind of left leg in front. So again, legs are kind of in that 90-90 position. And then again, we're going to play around a little bit with the position of the upper body in this stretch. So again, if you need to pad out your ankles at all, or the feet, or the knees, using a blanket to do that. And then again, to begin with, we're just going to start to fold kind of down across that front left knee. And we can again bring our hands onto the floor. We can drop the forehead down. We can rest the forehead on the floor, whichever feels best for you. And again, just taking a few moments here, just relax a little. And again, we can take it a little bit more into the upper body. So again, if we just want to stretch the arms a little bit further forward, we can. You can also maybe relax the head down onto the floor or onto a block, or we can stay up on the elbows, just whichever feels good for us. And then we're just going to slightly change our position a little bit here. So we're now just going to kind of slightly walk, so we're kind of between the legs. And then again, we can just fold forward here. And again, whatever position feels good, so again, whether you're on the hands, whether you're on the elbows, whether you have your arms stretched out in front, just whatever position feels good here for you. Again, for the glutes and the lower back, which is where we're kind of focusing on to. Again, also into the upper body a little bit. And again, you might feel a little bit of compression in the front of the hips here, especially on the left side. But again, if that feels okay, you can stay there. It feels a little bit uncomfortable. I sometimes find on my right hip, too much compression into the hip joint just doesn't feel great for me. So I actually lift up a little bit. And then that final little one, can we just slightly twist almost just a little bit towards that back knee, so towards that right knee. And you might not find there's much movement there kind of for the lower part of the back. You might find it's a little bit more of a kind of side stretch. And then again, slowly come back up onto the hands. We're going to play around a little bit more in this position, well, not quite in this position, but we're going to come into a little twist here. So we're going to get that back leg, so that right leg, and we're going to step it over our left knee. So again, we're going to come into that Lord of the Fishes pose. Again, there's two different variations here, depending on what feels good for your the left leg here. So you might kind of just have your kind of right bum cheek resting on your left heel. Or you might feel it's more comfortable to have that kind of left leg stretched out. So whichever variation, again, both variations are the same twist. And then again, whichever one you're in, you're just going to bring your right hand behind, you're going to press the palm into the floor, you're going to slightly roll that right shoulder blade back and down. You're going to have your right foot pressed into the floor, knee up to the ceiling. Again, we can bring our left arm up as we inhale. And again, as we exhale, we're just going to twist towards that right side. Too many lefts and rights. So we're going to bring our left elbow either in front of that right knee, or again, we can hug the knee in, which is my favourite variation. So again, just squeezing the belly towards thigh, taking the gaze over the back shoulder, again, relaxing the shoulders. Always that tendency to slightly tense the shoulders in twists. And just find with both knees bent in this one, I actually just find it just gets a little bit more into the glute area here for me. And then again, we can come back forwards. And then finally, we're going to take it into a little bit more of a hamstring stretch here on the right side. So we're going to stretch our right leg out. And again, here, if you've got anything to hand, you can pad it out. So again, if your hamstrings are feeling particularly tight on that right side, you might want to bring a blanket or a block underneath that knee. Sometimes roll up the edge of the mat. If you've got a half block, you can sit on the half block. We're not going to spend too long here. It's not going to be quite like a yin session. And again, all we're going to do is just slowly fold between the legs. And again, we just come to whatever position feels comfortable here. Again, if you haven't done much hamstring stretching today, I've taught class this morning, so if you haven't done much today, you can just come to whatever positions. Again, might be up on the hands, might be on the elbows. You might find that little bit of flossing or rotation helps to kind of free up the hips a little bit. I find that, especially if I first come into this stretch, a little bit of kind of the rotation of the hip here. It's funny, I used to absolutely hate this pose. I used to be my nemesis pose, and I love it now. It only took me like 8 years of teaching to get there. And then again, we can slowly come back up. Ooh. We can bring those legs out, give those legs a little bit of a flutter before we come on to the opposite side. And then again, we're going to swing the legs round the opposite way. So again, we're going to bring our right leg in front, left leg is behind this time. Again, we might want to pad out the knees, pad out the ankles. We might have feet in towards the body. We might have legs more in 90-90 position. We might perch a little bit on a blanket here if we feel a little bit lopsided, especially if our right side, that tighter side. And then again, the same thing here, just slowly start to fold down that front knee. So again, that right knee. And again, be aware if this is your, if you are right-handed, you're more dominant on that side. So generally, you're stronger on that side. So therefore, you're tighter because you build more lactic acid and such like in your muscles. So the more muscle you have, then the more tight you are. So again, you might find your right side come to a slightly different position here. And again, you can just come onto the hands, onto the elbows. You might stretch the arms out in front. You might drop the forehead onto the floor, just whatever feels good. And then again, we're just going to slowly start to kind of slightly turn so we're more between the legs. And then again, we can come onto elbows, onto hands, drop the forehead onto the floor. Again, you can stretch your arms out in front. Again, I find this side I need to be a little bit high for it to be comfortable for my front hip, that right hip. And then again, we can even twist a little bit more just towards that back knee. And again, it just might be a slight tilt, not much. You might find it's a little bit more in your upper body. And then again, we can slowly come back up. Ooh. And then we can get that back leg, we can get that left leg, and we're just going to step it over that right knee. And again, we can have foot pressing into the floor, knee up to the ceiling. We might have our left bum cheek resting on our right heel this time. We might prefer to do with the leg stretched out in the same twist. So again, whichever variation works for you. So again, we can bring our left hand behind. We use our left hand to kind of bring us into the twist, but also support the spine, so the spine stays nice and upright. Again, because I've got tight shoulders, I slightly roll my shoulder blade back and down here. Otherwise, I'm always a little bit hunched in. Bring our right arm up as we inhale. We can exhale, twist towards that left side. Again, we can hook the arm in front. We can hug the knee in, whichever we prefer. We can take the gaze over the back shoulder. And then again, we can come back to center. And then that final one here, we're just going to stretch that left leg out. And again, we might cushion underneath the knee, stop the hamstrings locking out. We might cushion underneath the heel. Sometimes we find it uncomfortable on the heels. You might sit on a block or a blanket. Again, whichever feels most comfortable for you. And then again, we can slowly start to fold. And again, we can just fold to whatever points. Again, we might be on hands, we might be on elbows, we might be partway on a block. So again, we might do a little. I always get really uncomfortable if my heels on the floor, so I have to make sure my heels are on the mat. We can have a little bit of flossing if that helps. I think I've said this before. I studied homeopathy quite a few years ago. And one of the things in homeopathy is they have a symptom called strange, rare, and peculiar. And it's often a keynote for a remedy that someone needs, is they'll have this really strange, rare, and peculiar sensation, which doesn't really make any sense. And I have it where I always feel like my heels are going to set on fire if they're pressing into the floor. I don't know why. That's my strange, rare, and peculiar sensation. I always have to have them on a mat or a blanket or something when I'm in these poses. And then again, we can slowly come back up. Ooh. And then we can just stretch those legs out and give those legs a little bit of a flutter. And then we're going to come into a couple of shoulder stretches in a moment. But just before we do, we're just going to do a little bit of footwork here. We've been doing footwork this morning as well in class. So again, just a little bit of flossing here, a little bit of rotation. And then again, can we rotate those legs in? Those feet in. Can we rotate the legs out? And then again, can we turn the soles of the feet to face each other? Ankle flexion. And then again, tops of the feet to face each other. And then again, my favourite one, can we play around a little bit with our toes? So again, how much mobility do we have in our feet? So we can move our big toe independently of our other toes. Pull it towards us, push it away. And this is proprioception. You will get that the more you practice this. It's just because we lose that connection to our feet. I mean, some people can write with their feet, they can paint with their feet. So we're supposed to have the same dexterity as we have with our hands, but we kind of lose it because we just don't use it. So we lose that connection to them. So again, can we spread our toes? How about our second toe? We've got any movement at all in our second toe? And then little toe. I can do my little toe on my left, but not on my right. And then again, we can keep like, I always do that in the back. It's really good form practice in the back, a little bit of proprioception of your feet. So now we're going to spin over and we're going to come on to our front. So we're going to start to take it a little bit more into our shoulders here and the upper body. So again, just taking those knees out to whatever position feels comfortable here. So again, we can have knees together, we can have knees apart, we can have knees wide apart. We can stretch those arms out in front. We can drop the forehead towards the floor, maybe even tuck the chin in a little bit. So again, back of the neck is long. And then again, we come into a little side stretch here. So again, how does it feel to just walk the hands over towards one side? And then again, we can come over towards the opposite side. And then again, we can come back to center. And then again, we can just stretch those arms out in front. And we can slowly come up here onto all fours. So we're just going to come into puppy pose. Again, there's that little shoulder stretch. So again, we're just going to drop those forearms onto the floor. And we're just going to kind of bring our forearms a little bit wider out towards the outside edges of the mat. We can drop our forehead onto the floor here. And again, whatever feels comfortable. So again, you might have bum stacked on knees, you might have bum further back, forward, you might have toes tucked under. And again, we just allow that chest to sink towards the floor. And then again, we can walk our hands a little bit further forward. As we do that, we might find it slightly changes the stretch. If we find our kind of head comes quite close to the floor, we get a little crick in the neck, we can bring our head onto one side. And then again, we can turn the head to the opposite side. And then again, we can just slowly pull back into any little child resting position here. Again, we can have forehead on the floor, forehead on a block, arms in front, arms behind, whatever feels comfortable. And then again, we can stretch the arms out in front, and we can slowly come back up onto all fours. So we're now going to come into our little cat-cow spine roll. So again, we're going to start with those joints kind of roughly stacked, just so we can kind of really press into our hands up between the shoulder blades. We can again inhale, kind of tucking the tailbone up, dropping the belly down, rolling the shoulder blades back, lifting up through the head. As we exhale, we can tuck toes under, tuck tailbone down, suck the belly in, arch the back, drop the head. And again, just a couple more rounds, working with the breath. And then again, we're going to come back into that flat back position. We're going to take it a little bit more into those kind of child up dog stretches, which I always find just kind of flow on from cat-cow. Just kind of take the back bend and forward fold a little bit further. So again, hands a little bit further forward. Inhale again, exhale, pull back towards your little child stretch. Again, maybe even tuck the chin in, feel that stretch kind of cross, kind of up the back of the neck. And then again, we can inhale, come back to flat back. We can exhale, drop the pelvis, roll up through the front of the chest, lift up through the head. And then again, a couple more rounds working with the breath. Again, you can pull back towards your little child pose, little forward fold. You can come towards your neutral spine, and then you can shift into that little back bend. Opening up through that front line of the body. And then the final time we come forward, if it feels okay to hang out here for a couple of breaths, we can. We can also take it a little bit more into an arm balance if it feels okay. So again, if you get any niggles in your wrists, you don't have to. But if you want to, you can just kind of press into the top of the feet, lift the knees off the floor, and then keep the knees lifted up off the floor to allow your pelvis to sink down, chest forwards. And then again, we can slowly pull back into our little child stretch. Again, we're just going to relax those hands for a moment here. So again, we bring hands down towards the feet, forehead onto where it's comfortable. And then again, we can stretch the arms out in front. We can slowly come back up onto all fours. Now we're going to get ready to come into our little downward facing dog. So again, we're going to press into the hands, press up between the shoulder blades, tuck the toes under. If you've got socks on, you might want to take them off. Tuck the toes under, shift the bum towards the heels, take the tailbone up towards the ceiling. Take a few moments here to stretch out. So again, your little down dog. So again, whatever feels good here. Walking the dog, coming up onto the toes, taking the heel down, coming up onto both sets of toes and shifting back. And then again, we're just going to slowly walk our hands in towards those feet, or feet to hands if you prefer. You're going to come into your little forward flop or fold here. We're just going to ragdoll, bob up and down, rock from side to side, whatever feels good here, just to stretch out those hamstrings a little. And then these can be bent a little bit or a lot. And then again, we're just going to slowly roll vertebra by vertebra. And coming up into standing. So we're going to work into a little bit of side stretches and also a little bit of strengthening. So we're going to come towards the front of the mat. And again, we're going to bring our hands into prayer position. So we're just going to bring our thumbs in towards sternum. We're going to have elbows wide out to the side. And then we're going to step now into our triangle position. So again, triangle legs is roughly about same position as warrior two. So again, shifting your weight towards your right foot. And then as your left foot, just step your left foot back. And again, for those of you who've been practicing for a long time, I want you to step back, but then not look at your feet. So again, adjust your posture to how it feels. Because again, we're often taught in yoga about how a pose looks, which I have issues with. So again, once you're in a position that feels good for your hips, again, have a look at your posture. It's probably pretty perfect for the pose. So again, back foot is about 45 degrees, back heel is roughly in very roughly these days, in line with the inside edge of the front foot. And again, our chest and hips are facing the long edge of the mat. So we're just going to relax the arms down. And again, we're going to engage the legs a little bit. I'm playing around with this a bit in the classes this week. So again, pressing towards the outside edge of the back foot, heel of the front foot. And then we're going to lift the arms up. Again, we're going to roll the shoulder blades back and down, pull the shoulder blades away from each other. We're going to come into that triangle pose. We're going to keep the front leg straight as we inhale. And then we exhale, just reach that right arm forwards and down. And again, we can bring it to wherever feels comfortable. So we can have it on the lower leg, have it on the knee, we can have it on the thigh. Again, you want to be at that point where your chest is nice and open. Sometimes with these poses, the tendency is to kind of slide a little bit further to down, and you slightly curl in a little. So again, just take a couple of breaths here. And then we're going to play around a little bit here with triangle. So again, we're going to slowly start to bring our left hand over that left ear. So the kind of palm is facing a little bit more towards the floor. So extended triangle. And keep the shoulder blade rolled back and down. And then we're going to wrap the arm around the back, bring it towards the opposite hips. And it's a nice kind of chest opener in triangle. I remember my first yoga teacher training, one of the girls I trained with, Sue, who still teaches, she used to hate this pose. It's called Trikonasana in Sanskrit. She used to always call it Trikonasti, the horrible Trikonasti pose. And again, we can just take a couple of breaths here. And then we're just going to slowly come up onto the toes of the back foot. We're going to shift the weight forward. We're going to come towards a little runner's lunge as we bend that front knee, sinking the belly towards that thigh. We're going to press the palms into the floor as we inhale. And we're going to exhale, step back into our little plank pose. And again, we're just going to take a couple of breaths here. And then we're going to play around in a little side plank. So again, very similar to Trikonasana. So we're going to drop our right knee onto the floor. And then we're going to swing our kind of right leg around. So it's kind of towards the long edge of the mat on the right side. We're going to step our right hand a little bit further in. So it's now more underneath the shoulder. And then we're going to roll onto that right hand, right knee, and we're going to turn the left foot to face the long edge of the mat. So again, supported plank pose, or supported side plank pose, I should say. So again, all we're going to do here is bring our left arm up. And then again, we can also drape that left arm over the left ear, which again, I love for the little shoulder stretch. And then again, if you also want to work a little bit into strengthening here, you can also lift your left leg up, get your adductors firing a little. And then we can drop that left foot back down. We can take our left arm back up, and now we're going to use our core a little bit because we're going to lift up into gate pose. So we're going to inhale here, pressing into our left foot, and we're going to exhale. Effortlessly into gate pose. We're going to drop our left hand now onto our left thigh. We're going to reach our right arm up, and then we're going to come into a little side stretch this way. So we're going to slide the left hand down towards the left knee. We're going to reach that right arm up and over. And then again, we're going to go back into plank. So we're going to drop the right hand onto the floor. Left hand on, we're going to turn up onto the toes. We're going to step that right leg back. And then we're just going to drop knees, feet. We can pull back to child. We can bend the elbows as we inhale, exhale, push through towards our little up dog. And then again, we can pull back into any little child stretch here for a couple of breaths. And then again, we're going to slide the hands in underneath the shoulders. Again, press into the hands up between the shoulder blades. Tuck the toes under, take the tailbone up towards the ceiling, come into our little downward facing dog here as we take a few moments to stretch out. We can again do that little calf stretching down dog, so we can step right foot behind the left, press the left heel towards the floor, tailbone up towards the ceiling. And then again, bringing the right foot in, stepping the left foot behind, right heel towards the floor, tailbone up towards the ceiling. And then we can come back into our down dog. We can walk hands to feet, feet to hands. We can come into our little forward flop, forward fold. And then again, we can roll up, hinge up, take the arms wide out to the side, lift up, and back into Tadasana. And then we do all that on the opposite side. So again, just coming back towards front of the mat. Again, hands roughly into prayer position, thumbs in towards the sternum. Again, shifting the weight towards our left foot. And then again, we're just going to step back to our warrior. So again, not thinking about the pose, but just step in, or a triangle pose, same position for the legs, triangle and warrior too. So again, just find that position that feels good for your hips. Again, you need to adjust your front foot, your back foot a little bit, lengthen your stance, shorten your stance. Again, inhale, bringing those arms up, rolling the shoulder blades back and down, pulling the shoulder blades away, pressing towards the outside edge of the back foot, towards the heel of the front foot, so again, your legs engage a little bit. Reaching forwards as you inhale, exhale, rotate round. So again, we drop left hand down towards where it's comfortable on our left leg. We have our right arm reaching up towards the ceiling. We have that nice kind of open chest. And then again, we can come into our little side stretch here. So again, we can start to bring that arm up over the ear. Again, try and keep that right shoulder blade rolling back and down. And then again, we can reach it around the back, bring it towards the opposite kind of hip thigh. This is my favourite triangle pose now, this one. And then again, we can just release. And again, we can turn up onto the toes of the back foot. We can start to bend that front knee. We can bring the hands down towards the floor. We come into our little runner's lunge. Plant the palms onto the floor. Press up between the shoulder blades as we inhale. Exhale, step back into our plank position. Again, sliding the shoulder blades over the hands. We can now drop left knee onto the floor, and again we're going to swing that left leg round so it kind of faces towards the long edge of the mat. We're going to step that left hand in, and then we're going to come onto that left hand, left knee, right foot faces towards the long edge of the mat. Supported side plank. We can again bring our right arm up to begin with. We can bring it up and over the ear, lovely little shoulder stretch. I don't know why, I just love this little shoulder stretch. And again, if you want to work a little bit into your adductors, you can also lift up that right leg. And then again, we can place it back down. And then again, getting ready to lift up. So again, using that little bit of core power here. So again, pressing into the feet, lifting up into gate pose. And then again, we can bring the right hand down onto the right thigh. We can slide the hand down as we reach that arm up and over. So again, that lovely little side stretch. And then again, we can slowly come back. Bring left hand onto the floor, right hand onto the floor, swing that left knee back in, tuck the toes under on the back leg, step back into our little plank position. And again, we can drop knees, feet onto the floor, we can pull back to child, or again, we can bend the elbows as we inhale, exhale, pushing through towards that little upward facing dog. And then again, we can pull back into our little child stretch. And then again, we can slide the hands underneath the shoulders, press into the hands up between the shoulder blades, tucking the toes under again, taking that tailbone up towards the ceiling, coming into our little downward facing dog. Again, taking a couple of moments to stretch out here in your little down dog. And then again, we can walk hands to feet, feet to hands. We can come into our little forward flop, forward fold. And then again, we can roll up, hinge up, take the arms wide out to the side, lift up. And again, back into Tadasana. So we're going to do a couple more little kind of flowing sequences, again, playing around a little bit with strength and flexibility. So again, we're going to come back towards the front of the mat. And again, we're just going to relax the arms down. So again, we're going to inhale, bringing the arms up this time. We're going to take the gaze up towards the kind of raised prayer position above the head. So again, a little bit of back bend. And then again, we can exhale, draw the hands down the midline. Again, coming into forward flop, forward fold. And then again, cupping the fingertips in line with the toes, shifting again the weight into the right foot here, and stepping left foot back. So we're going to come into that little low lunge or runner's lunge here. So again, we're going to drop our back knee, back foot onto the floor. Again, we're not going to come into that psoas release here. So we just want to roughly kind of have our right knee stacked, kind of roughly on top of our right ankle. Sometimes we take the knee further forward if we're going for the Achilles and psoas stretch. So again, we're just going to inhale here. And as we exhale, we're going to lift up into our low lunge. And then we're going to work a little bit of strengthening here because we're going to bring our hands into prayer position. We're going to slowly fold forward and we're going to twist. So we're going to hook that left elbow around that front knee. We're going to squeeze the palms together because again the shoulders are wide. And then you're going to play around a little bit with strength here. So you're going to, if it feels okay, tuck your toes under on your back foot. Inhale. As you exhale, straighten the back leg, keep that belly squeezed towards the front thigh. And then again, we can drop the hands down onto the floor. If your back knee's still on the floor, tucking the toes under, lifting up through the back leg, pressing into the hands up between the shoulder blades, stepping back again into our little plank position, dropping knees, feet, pulling back to child, bending the elbows, pushing forwards into our little up dog, and then back towards our little child stretch. And again, in child stretch, toes tucked under or not, whichever you prefer. And then again, we're going to slide the hands underneath the shoulders, press into the hands, tuck the toes under, take the tailbone up towards the ceiling, little down dog. You can take a few moments to stretch out in down dog. And then again, we can walk hands to feet, feet to hands. We can step through if we want to. We can come into our little forward flop, forward fold. And then again, we can roll up, hinge up, take those arms wide out to the side, lift up, and back into Tadasana. And then we do all on the opposite side and chill out for a bit. So again, coming back towards the front of the mat, and again, getting grounded. Don't you remember which side we're stepping back? We just stepped. Okay, so again, we can just inhale here, bring the arms up, gaze up towards the thumbs. Exhale again, drawing the hands down the midline. Back into our little forward fold. Again, cupping the fingertips in line with the toes, shifting the weight towards our left foot. And again, we can step right foot back. We can drop back knee, back foot onto the floor. We can inhale here. We can exhale, lift up into our lower. Now, And then again, we can bring hands into prayer position, fold towards our front thigh, hook that right elbow over that left knee, squeeze the palms together. Again, if you want to, you can tuck toes under on the back leg, lift up through the back leg, keep belly squeezed towards spine, legs nice and firing. And then again, we can drop hands back down onto the floor. Again, if knees still on the floor, tuck toes under, lift up through the back leg. Press into the hands up between the shoulder blades as we inhale. Exhale again, we can step back into plank. Press into the hands up between the shoulder blades, suck the belly in, suck the ribs in. Press into the toes through the heels. And then we're going to slowly now roll down onto our front. So we can drop the knees down and we can come down on to our front now. And we're going to take a couple of moments here to chill out. So we're just going to have a little wiggle out of that bum here. And then we're just going to come into a couple of little poses here. So I'm going to chuck in the reclining Buddha one, which I know Catherine, who's here tonight, loves. So if we just stretch our right arm out in front of us, and we just roll over onto that right side. So again, for this position, you can play around. So you might have your kind of ear resting on your right arm. You might bend your kind of elbow and just kind of rest your head in your hand. It's actually called the Ataman pose. Which reminds me of the reclining Buddha in the Wat Po in Bangkok. For some reason, I always think it's reclining Buddha pose. So again, a little bit of a balance here. So to begin with, we're just going to kind of engage that bottom leg. So again, we're going to pull the toes up towards us, press through the heel. It engages that back line of the leg, engages the glute a little bit on that side. And then we're going to come into kind of like a tree position here to begin with. So we're just going to bring our left foot to somewhere on our right thigh. We can rest our left hand on that knee. So again, we find a balance. So it's a little bit of a balance. And then you can also take it into a hamstring stretch here. So if you start to bend the knee, bringing the knee kind of the thigh towards the belly, you can either grab hold of the bottom of your trousers, you can grab hold of your big toe with your first two fingers, like yogi toe lock. And then we're just going to stretch that leg up towards the ceiling. So we come into that little hamstring stretch. And again, you can have your knees bent as you need it to be. And again, you might find it's a little bit kind of precarious. And then again, we can just release. We can roll back onto our fronts, and then again, we're going to swap sides. So this time we're going to take that left arm up. We're going to roll over onto that left side. Again, we're going to either rest our left knee on our left upper arm, or again, we're going to come into gently supporting the head with the hand. Again, engaging that bottom leg, so again, pulling the toes up towards you, pressing through the heel. And then again, coming into that kind of reclining tree pose, where you bring your kind of foot to wherever's comfortable. Bring your hand towards knees, so again, you find the balance. And again, sometimes I know on one of my Tuesday night classes, a woman who always finds it really uncomfortable for a hip. Sometimes if you do just bending the knee a little bit on the bottom leg, that sometimes helps you find more balance as well. And it really helps find the balance. So again, you can stay in that reclining tree position, working into the balance. You can bring it into a hamstring stretch by bringing the knee in towards you, grabbing hold of the bottom of the trousers, big toe, yogi toe lock. And then again, we can stretch the leg up towards the ceiling. I remember about 5 years ago, this was my favourite pose. I used to chuck it into every class. I loved it. And then again, we can just release. And then we're going to lower back down onto our fronts. So now we're going to come into that little shoulder stretch, because we've done quite a lot of planks and stuff today. So again, we're going to start by bringing our kind of left arm out up to the side. And we're going to bring our right hand underneath the front of the right shoulder. And we're just going to start to roll over onto that left side. So we're kind of trapping the left arm behind us. And again, this might be where you want to support your head on a block or a cushion or a pillow or a blanket, anything you've got to hand. And again, you might want to adjust that back arm a little bit so it's not really intense here into the front of the shoulder. It's just like a really nice kind of chest opener. And again, position of the legs here. So again, the more the knees are bent, the more your weight shifts forward, releasing the stretch a little bit in that back shoulder. If you straighten your legs, obviously it chucks your weight a little bit further back. If you get your top leg and drop it back, it brings your weight even further back. And also if you bring your arm back, opposite arm back, so that right arm. So again, whichever position feels good for that shoulder. And again, it is quite an intense stretch, so you don't want to go too far. And then again, you can just release. You can again slowly roll back onto your fronts here. And then again, we're just going to swap sides. So again, we can bring that right arm out this time, bring the left hand underneath the front of the left shoulder. Again, rolling over onto that right side. Again, if your right side is that tighter side, going gently here. So again, do you want to support the head? Do you want to bend the knees? Do you want to straighten the legs? Do you want to drop your top leg back? And whichever variation feels comfortable for you on this side. And then again, we can slowly come back, forwards. We can again just give that bum a little bit of a wiggle, maybe that little stretch out of the lower back. Naturally, we don't have to come up because we're going to transition onto our back to come into some twists. So you can actually, if you want to, just roll over onto your back rather than having to sit up and go through all that palaver. So if you want to, just roll over and come onto your backs, you can. So we're going to finish off here with a couple of little twists. So we're going to again do the kind of eagle legs twist. So again, we've been doing lots of twists tonight, lots of stretching out for the upper body and the lower body. So again, we're going to start with that eagle twist on the left side. So we're just going to bring both feet onto the floor. Knees are bent. We're going to step our left leg over the right. And again, we can either rest our left foot against our right lower leg, or we can hook it around the back of the calf, whichever we prefer, whichever feels comfortable for the ankle here. And then again, we can bring our arms out to shoulder level. We can inhale. And again, as we exhale, we're just going to drop those legs over towards our right side. And again, however feels good here, so again, you might support the legs, your right hand, you might support them with a block or a cushion. You might hug them a little bit further towards the floor. You might play around a little bit again with the left arm, so again, keep it shoulder level, take it to cactus arm, slide it a little bit higher, just whatever feels good here. Knock my little Ganesh statue up. And then again, we're just going to take a few moments here, just relax into the twist. And then again, we can come back to center. We can come into that second little part of eagle twist. So again, that's where we lift the thighs a little bit more up towards the belly. We step the legs right off the floor on that right side. And again, kind of the belly's kind of coming towards the thighs, thighs towards the belly. So again, a little bit more of a forward fold twist. So slightly changes where we're kind of twisting from. And again, we can play around with the left arm, the position of the head. You can support the legs, hug the legs in, whichever you prefer. And then again, we can slowly come back onto our backs. We can unhook those legs and take a moment. How's that left side feel compared to the right? And then again, we can come onto the opposite side. So again, we can cross the right leg over the left. We can leave the foot rest against the lower leg. We can hook it around the back of that left calf, whichever we prefer. I actually find it uncomfortable on this side. I find on the other side I get hooked. But this side I don't do it. It feels uncomfortable on my right side. Again, we can drop those legs down towards that left side. Again, we play around with the legs. Do we support them? Do we hug them in? Do we play around with the arm? Do we keep it shoulder level? Cactus arm, slide it a little bit higher. Do we turn the head? And then again, we can slowly come back to center and come into that second part of eagle twist. Again, lifting the thighs a little bit closer towards the belly, stepping them right over and off the floor here. And supporting the legs, hugging them in, playing around with the arm. And then again, we can slowly come back onto our backs. We can unhook the legs. We can take a couple of moments here. So again, however you feel you need to stretch out. You want to kind of hug the knees in. Do you want to circle the knees? Do you want to rock from side to side? Whatever feels good here. And then again, whenever you're ready, we're just going to get ready to come into our Shavasana. So whenever you finish stretching up, so if there's any pause you feel you need to do, anywhere you need to move before you come into a relaxation, take a couple of moments. And again, whenever you want to come into your Shavasana, you can just get comfortable there. So again, if you want to grab any cushions, any blankets, and again, we can just take those few moments here. Get nice and comfortable. So again, we can just find our comfortable Shavasana position, whatever that may be. So again, it might be lying on the floor, it might be lying on your side, it might be lying on your back, it might be lying on your sofa or your bed if that feels more comfortable to you. And again, we're just going to take a few moments here. Just find that nice little comfortable position. And then we can just start to again shift that awareness inwards. So again, do we just want to start to become aware of the breath again? And just the inhalation, the exhalation, as that breath starts to deepen. We can start to bring our breath into the body. So again, we can just breathe from the top of the head right down into the fingers, the toes, and just focusing into any little areas of tension, tightness, discomfort in the body. And again, as you breathe out, just try to allow those areas just to relax, release, and soften a little. Bring our breath and our awareness again, from the top of the head right down into the fingers, the toes. And again, as we exhale, we just allow the weight of the body to come nice and heavy. So that body sinks down into the floor. And then we can just bring our breath and our awareness now to the body and to where the body touches the floor. So again, the back of the head, the back of the shoulders, the hands, the glutes, calves, heels if you're lying on the back. And as you exhale here, just really allow your awareness and your weight to shift into those parts that touch the floor. Again, just sinking in there, letting go of that hold and that tension in the body, because the body is supported by the floor, so you can let go. And then we're going to start to bring the awareness to the breath. And we're going to slowly come into that Samavriti breath. So again, breathing in for 6. And again, breathing out for 6. And then we can start to bring a little comeback in, the intention of the breath. So again, we can breathe in for 6, hold for 3, out for 6, hold for 3. And then finally we can come into that full Samavriti or box breath. So again, breathing in for 6, holding for 6, out for 6, holding with empty lungs for count of 6. And then finally, that last little part of that Samavriti or box breath is where we draw that yantra. So again, yantra is like a sacred image, like with a mandala or something in the middle of it. So here we make a yantra, a square of the kind of the torso, heart center. So again, as we breathe in, we visualize a line running from our kind of right hip up towards the front of the right shoulder. As we hold with full lungs, we visualize that line from the right shoulder to the left. As we exhale for 6, we draw that line from the left shoulder to the left hip. And then again, as we hold with empty lungs, we draw the bottom of the square from left hip to right. So again, in right hip to right shoulder, hold with full lungs, right shoulder to left. Exhale for 6, left shoulder to left hip. And again, holding with empty lungs, left hip to right. And again, we just keep this visualization going. With the breath, that box breath, making that yantra image. So we're just going to let go of that yantra, let go of the breath. Now awareness back to the body, to the floor underneath us, the air on the skin. We can start to breathe a little deeper. And then again, we can just start to bring that little bit of gentle movement. So maybe wiggling the fingers, the toes a little, taking the head from side to side. Again, when we're ready to bring a little bit more movement into the body, we can do a gentle overarm stretch. Again, we can bring the hands together if we want to, gently rubbing the hands together. We can bring the hands up to the eyes, again, just gently blinking into that warmth and darkness of the hands. Bringing the fingertips onto the eyelids, gently massaging out the eyelids, down the sides of the jaw, to the chin. And then we can just hug our knees up into our chest when we're ready. Rocking out the lower back for a couple of moments. And then again, just slowly in your own time, if you want to, you don't have to, just finding a way up into comfortable seated position. And again, we can just take a few moments here. Just that awareness, how do we feel after our practice? And then again, we can clasp the hands together, stretch those arms up as we inhale, and exhale wide out. So thank you very much, guys. Lovely to practice with you all this evening.